If you say, could you bring friends to the church, you think, I don't know what to say. I don't have any idea. Well, lo and behold, there was a great carpet of wonderful reasons why you would come to this church, because you just told me why you came, and if it was good enough to bring you here, it's got to be good, doesn't it? I mean, that goes without saying. In the history of the church, of course, as the church began, that little group of disciples following Jesus and the apostles as they became, and then the events of the Gospels, and tracing that through to the crucifixion, resurrection, and ascension of our Lord, and the story develops, and we go into the book of Acts, where you see the whole thing beginning to really get going, and numbers of people being involved. We are, of course, the successors of those people. We are the disciples today. That's who we are, which is why we did that little exercise last week about that. And the church has tried to be structured in the way that it's done things, and some more rigidly than others. In the early days of the church, of course, we saw how it developed in the east, to the eastern and western churches, with the hierarchical structure. And to take Rome, which is an example that many of you have experience of personally, we have the Pope at the top, and so we go down right the way through, and we get down to the laity. And some people have suggested perhaps that this whole edifice like this is designed to hold the people down. Of course, the idea really is that there will be structure and organization in the church. And we start out in that succession, not in our denomination. We don't have a pope. We have a bishop of every diocese. And you know, we have our bishop here, Bishop George Sumner. And he is in charge, as it were, of our diocese and oversees it. And beneath him in the hierarchical structure come the priests. And I am honored to be one of those, as is Rebecca over here too. And then we get down to the order of the deacons. And I don't like that term very much, that we get down to the order of the deacons, because if you look and see what the deacons do, and we were going to have Ginny here tonight, they're the ones who do all the work. And so somehow that ought to be tipped up the other way. It ought to perhaps be bishops and deacons and then priests. I don't know how about that. I'm not getting into it because it's dangerous ground to tread on. But that's the way the church is structured so far as the ministry is concerned. And all of this is to enable the work of the laity, which is the work of the people who are baptized, confirmed, dedicated members of the community of faith, which is all of you. And this becomes then your job. You pick up on this, and you have opportunities in the church and also in your private life, in your working life, and in your private life at home. You have opportunities to outreach in various ways to people to bring them in. The church offers a structure for us to bring them to. Otherwise, you would be telling your story as you understood it to the best. And like the end of Mark, you drop off the end of a cliff, there wouldn't be anything to attach people to. But as it is, we do have a community of faith which is ongoing. When I came to this church around about 1976 is when it was, we had a community of people here, and they were the church in action there. There are not a great number of them left. They've gone the way of all flesh. Many of them have, and that's my next step too. I'm well aware of that. But the ministry, the success of the ministry here has been the fact that now we look out at 1,450 or so members of this church, active members. I think Casey's pretty ruthless about making sure we only count active members of the congregation, not those who sort of think, well, yes, I went once or twice, so put me down, I'm a member. Well, no, that won't carry it with Casey, I don't think, very well. He wants active members here, and that is what is so very important for us forced to be that active in the things we do. And so when you get into this community here, if it's a little community such as I had in my first church, which was in Oak Cliff, where we had maybe at the very best, we had 150 members, including those that didn't come very often. We had about, I think, 4 organizations in that church that you could be involved in. We had a men's club, we had a women's club, the women of the church, we had the choir, we had the altar guild, and there may have been another one, I don't remember, but it was very small. But in this church, you have tremendous numbers of opportunity here for you to be involved in the life of the church, all of which should give you the opportunity to bring friends and people that you know into that community, to say, you know, I used to say here, and of course this is the old days and we're not there now, I used to say to the congregation, if you have something you want to do at this church, I will give you, and in those days I had $1,000, actually a good deal more than that available, but I would say to somebody who wanted to start, let's say, a group to do with mission work somewhere or down in the city, helping down there, I would say, I can stand you $1,000. Now if you make money, please pay me back. But if you don't, that money is for you to use. That's the whole point of it. And that was what that fund was for. The vestry gave me $5,000 a year to do that, to promote ministry here. And so we have these various ministries, and Rebecca's going to talk to you in a minute about some of those ministries that we have and the opportunities that are before us. But I can't impress upon you enough that you do know what to say to people if you think, you know, my friend might be interested in my church. I've never mentioned it to him or her, but I think I will. You know what to say. Last week we had this wonderful opportunity to hear one another say what it was about our church that we really felt very strongly about. Rebecca, do you want to pick up?
Sure, absolutely. Let me take that microphone from you.
Yes.
And that way it'll be recorded.
For posterity.
I won't reach in your pocket. Yeah,
Oh,
there
well,
we
you're
go.
welcome.
Well, if a wallet's in there, maybe I will reach in. So we've been making our way through the baptismal covenant, and the question that we're looking at tonight. Let me just pull this back out. Does anybody already know it? It's okay. Service, exactly. Will you seek and serve Christ in all persons, loving your neighbor as yourself? And you say what?
I will.
Exactly. The question is, how do you seek and serve Christ in all persons? Loving your neighbor as yourself, that might be a little bit more obvious, but it's also pretty easy to struggle with that one. But how do you seek and serve Christ in all persons? And so if Deacon Ginny had been here tonight, you would have learned a little bit about what a deacon does. Deacons, the shortest and best description I can give you is that deacons serve as a bridge between the needs of the world, and the needs of all persons, including our neighbors, and the gifts of the church. And so deacons have one foot in the church and one foot in the world, and they're listening over here to the needs, and they're saying, oh, I know so-and-so over here could do that. And so they're going over here and saying, hey, so-and-so over here, that's somebody who needs you, right? That's what a deacon does. In a lot of ways here at Transfiguration, Deacon Ginny does that by leading many of our ministries and serving as a staff liaison to them. And so what she put together, she's not here tonight, she's ill. So she has put together for you a chart showing you, if you'll take one and pass them across, showing you a little bit about all the different opportunities there are for you to seek and serve Christ here at the church, so that when you stand up at your baptism and again at your confirmation or your reception or whatever it is, there's one for each of you, you are Well, you've each got a binder. Plus, I have all these copies. Would you pass those down and one back for me? So that you are able to say, yes, I will, and have a good sense of what you're talking about. 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. Okay. Uh-oh. So what we've done here is give you a list of all the different ways that right now we know people are seeking and serving Christ in all persons and loving our neighbors as ourselves in some organized fashion here at Transfiguration. Obviously, I hope you heard in the way I just described what this list is. It's not all the ways you could do that. But sometimes it is helpful to know of a ministry or two that is an organized ministry already that you can begin to dip a toe into. And I don't know that I'm going to walk through each and every one, but let me just point out a few of the ministries. Acolytes are the people who carry crosses and torches and process in our services. And we have adults and we have youth who do that work. And I've given you Jenny's given you, not only the ministry, but the name of the contact person. And once we finish the retreat and the baptisms, you'll all have a login to Realm, which will enable you to say, I think I'd really like to be an acolyte. I'm going to send an email to Robin Caldwell and set up a training. And if you need help with that, you can always call me, and you can always call Deacon Jenny, and we can help connect you to those people. Altar Guild are the people who work behind the scenes to, you can ask Colleen about that if you want. They help take care of all of our linens. They set the table for worship. They care for all the vessels that we use. They get out the bread and the wine and get the right quantities of that ready. They do all kinds of amazing work. Austin Street Center is a facility that feeds and shelters homeless in our community. We have several different teams who go once a month. Judy Loveday Corbett is the person to talk with about that. And many of these ministries, not all of them, but you're already able to do. So if any of these sound interesting along the way, let us know. Children's ministry volunteers, do you see First Steps, Safe Church Training, and background check? You'll see that on certain things. Safe Church Training, make sure that we've given you all that you need in order to help protect children, to keep them safe, and to behave appropriately with them yourself, right? So we give kids side hugs instead of full-on hugs, and we have 2 adults and 2 children all the time. We never have 1 adult and 1 child alone anymore. That's just, the world has changed. So you'll learn all that in those procedures, and then a background check is something you sign a consent, and we run it ourselves. The clothes horse is right over here. If you have gently used, lovely clothing that just you don't wear anymore, there's a drop-off box right outside this, literally on the other side of this wall out here. If you're looking for some gently used clothes at a really reasonable price, you can go into the clothes horse and purchase them, and you can volunteer there. And Miss Maggie has like a whole wardrobe from there, really.
I do too.
Yeah. It's great stuff, good bargains. And the money is, just so you know, St. Hilda's Guild runs that, and the money is used to fund ministry, particularly with women and children here at the church and outside the boundaries of the church. So it's not a for-profit thing. Episcopal Peace Fellowship, you've probably read about that in our bulletins. They meet on a regular basis and write letters to our elected officials and to others in leadership positions, encouraging them on a variety of things. I think there were some thank you letters written to Mitt Romney this past weekend. I'm not kidding, I think there were. Eucharistic ministers are a lot like acolytes. They wear the same vestments on Sundays, but they help serve the chalice of wine following along after whoever is handing out the bread. To become a Eucharistic minister, you would contact Father Casey, and I think his requirement, even though it's not stated, is that you are here and regularly participating for a full year before you begin to do that. Eucharistic visitors, sorry, that's different from Eucharistic ministers. Visitors take communion to people in their homes who are not able to get to church. We are always, always, always looking for Eucharistic visitors. So if that's something that you're interested in, please let me know, or Deacon Jenny. The Flower Guild takes people who know absolutely nothing about how to make beautiful flower arrangements like the ones we have and teaches them how to make it, how to do that. They take people who have never done anything, even cut the plastic off the bouquet from the grocery store and shove it in a vase. They will train you on how to do this, and it's a lovely, lovely work. It's a labor of love. You're welcome to do that. Did you know we have a food pantry right on site here that feeds people on the third Monday? Is that right?
Coming up Monday.
This coming Monday. You have two gentlemen in the room who work at that, John and Robert. And if that sounds appealing to you, talk to them. There is a ministry for funeral receptions, which is just what it sounds. You put together cookies and punch to serve to people who've come for a funeral. Greeters greet people at the very front door and say, hello, welcome, we're so glad you're here. Oh yes, the nursery is just down this way. I'd be glad to help show you that, etc., etc. There's a bookstore, and they are always looking for people who have some time to sit and help staff the bookstore. Lectors are people who read in church. That's a very glamorous job, and we have a huge list of lectors. I'm not trying to discourage you. I am saying that if you sign up to be a lector, you should sign up for something else too, because your name doesn't come up very often. People wait months in hopes that their name will. We have someone who doesn't get out very much anymore because physically he's not able to, but his name comes up to lector and he is in church, I'll tell you that. Hell or high water, get moved. Our parish nurses, I don't think anyone here is a nurse, but if you are, oh yes, of course. Do you do parish nursing?
I'll be doing it the first weekend in March.
Fantastic. Taking blood pressure. We keep records of your blood pressure.
Yes,
At the table?
Saturday night and also Sunday morning.
We have a little index card with your name on it, and we'll keep track of it. And if our nurses start to notice that your blood pressure is changing, they will let you know and send you to the doctor.
Rebecca, also so important, they will look through your list of medications
Yes.
and tell you if you've got something that are contraindicated that you didn't know you should not be taking.
And how many of us have had this doctor prescribes this and that doctor prescribes that, and nobody is looking at everything we take. So thank you. That's really important. We have people, if you're able to knit or crochet, we have a group of people who make prayer shawls, and those are taken to people who are in the hospital, who are going through a hard time, who are grieving, and are assigned, they pray over them as they knit or crochet, and it's a sign of love and warmth.
And even if you don't know how to knit or crochet,
They will teach you. Richard Anderson, you know Richard, who's usually here. He is a member of that. You could talk to him about it.
And he's done dozens.
Did I skip the prayer chain? You can be on the prayer chain. That involves giving your email address to Lindsay Young-Hill, who runs it, and you will be emailed with prayer requests, and you are asked to either in your regular prayer time every day, or as you get the request, to stop and pray a prayer for the name or names in that list. And that is a really important ministry. It is so helpful for people to know they're being prayed over when they're going through a hard time. Sound techs sit at that little table in the back of the sanctuary and record the services and help make sure everybody's microphones are turned on and off at the right time so that y'all don't hear me yucking it up out in the hallway when Father Casey's making his announcements. St. Elizabeth's Guild sponsors a potluck once a month. I encourage all of you to attend that potluck and potentially become members of St. Elizabeth's Guild. They do little projects around the church. They'll serve a soup, salad, supper one night.
Don't they take meals to the people who are going through surgery?
Yes.
Yes, they do. They deliver meals as well to people who've had a surgery, who've had a baby, etc. Yes. Stephen ministers have a one-on-one relationship with somebody who's going through something that's very difficult in their life. Stephen ministry training, Safe Church training, and 1 year of attendance at the church is this much of what it takes to be a Stephen minister. There is a course, not unlike The Way, to train you on how to listen and how to care for someone who is going through a very difficult time, and also will train you about appropriate boundaries so that you can compassionately care for them and hear them without someone else's tragedy becoming your tragedy and sort of being pulled in. I make light of the fact that it's a lot of training, but it's a lot of training for a very good reason, because it will help you be a good, strong caregiver to someone who could use one. We have a little reception on Saturday night after, I am going through them all, aren't I? We have a little reception on Saturday night with snacks at a table. You could prepare some snacks for that. We are urgently in need of, Peter Soper has wanted to stand in front of you for 3 weeks and make this announcement, and we haven't had it done. We are urgently in need of ushers at 11:15. If you attend the 11:15 service and would be willing, ushers stand outside the church and hand out bulletins, which means they occasionally answer questions like where's the bathroom and where's the nursery, just like greeters. They take up the offering at the offering time. They bring forward the bread and wine that is used for the communion. Anything else ushers do? They help point out people in the congregation who can't come up and get communion to the people who have communion so we can take it out. And Maggie?
I just want to say that it's an awful lot of fun.
It is fun.
Get to meet the new people, you know, that maybe you've never seen before, and you can spot them and welcome them. It's also part of the welcoming ministry, very, very strongly part of the welcoming ministry.
Indeed. We have many people in the room who currently serve as ushers, and we need ushers on Saturday and at 9 and at 11:15, but we're desperate at 11:15. So if you think at all that you might want to be an usher, please consider 11:15.
Don't they also direct communion?
Yes, they do. They release people from pews so that we don't just have a mass run on bread and wine. Vacation Bible School. You met Cindy Hauser, who came down very early on in the process and introduced herself as the Director of Children's Ministries. There is a week in June where we do Vacation Bible School in the mornings. She's always looking for volunteers who can come and help teach, who can help be another person in the room for Safe Church, who can serve snacks. There are all sorts of little things you can do for Vacation Bible School if you're interested. And then youth ministry, we have classes on Sunday mornings down here during the formation time, and on Wednesday nights in this spot. Colleen can tell you about that. There is something we call crossover, which is youth group, and we're always in need of volunteers for that.
Very much need volunteers.
That was a really quick way to run through this document. One and then two. So Barbara?
I noticed two ministries that are not on here. Is this all the ministries, or is this almost all of the ministries?
So here's how we did this. This document has never existed until this year, and I said, I need a document that I can give people that they can start to look at and pray over. If anybody knows any ministries that are not here, you can come write them on mine before you go, or you can send me an email, and we will fill it out. What we did to create this was we went into Realm, and if you had a ministry listed in Realm, we used it for the starting point. What are you thinking of that's missing? Hang on, just.
Daughters of the King, Episcopal Men's
yes.
Fellowship.
There's a lot missing.
And
I need my pen.
That there was we did the cards for the prison ministry. There's a prison ministry that she runs.
There is Daughters of the King, shout them out. Prison ministry,
Open to
EMF,
Open door.
Open Door.
I can't remember what you called it, but it's basically in my tradition we call it Couch Outside, but it's different than that. I can't remember the name of it. It's like
Do we still-
Priscilla
I got it.
prison.
Do we still do birthday cards? I don't remember.
We do not. You know how the birthday ministry works?
George Bean.
George Beanfang phones everyone in the church on their birthday.
Yes,
Yeah,
We're like, we started from the church.
he loves
We
it.
know what I'm the
yes.
He loves it.
George Beanfang is 90. George Beanfang texts me and uses things like LOL in his texts. He is an amazing man.
He got one of the
T.M.
awards.
Crown.
He got one of the.
Well earned.
Yeah.
Well earned. Yes, he makes a lot of chili, but he does a lot of other things around this church, ministry-wise. Yeah, there are, music. I heard somebody say music ministry is not here. You can sing in the choir. So there are lots, and my point of all this is take this home. Think about things you see people doing around here as a ministry, as a labor of love, as a way of serving others with the love of Christ in you. And think about ways that you might want to be engaged in that. There is not on here a ministry to tutor children. There is not on here a ministry to collect donations for a women's shelter. There is not a ministry on here that would have a blood drive. There are all kinds of ministries. There are all kinds of ways to seek and serve Christ in other people. Hang on just a second. And what you're committing to in baptism and in confirmation or in reaffirmation is that you will do one or more of those things, that you will love people with Christ's love. And we want to help connect you into something in this place, or once you've been around and you're connected enough, if you want to start something in this place, we want to help you do that.
That's actually what I was just going to get into. As for starting things, I've been working on talking to Father Casey about a garden ministry. So if y'all want to help out with that, just go to Father Casey.
What we will say if you come and say, why don't we fill in the blank? What Father Casey and I and Deacon Jenny will say is, that's a vital ministry. Would you like to start that? Do you have a group of people who will do that ministry with you? We will support you in any way you can. But we don't do well with, why don't y'all do, because we do a lot. Barbara.
I met someone, they have a garden out there along the parking lot.
John Caldwell.
Yeah.
John Caldwell does some gardening here. John.
I don't know if he still does, he's got a bad back now.
Okay.
Yeah, he's still good. Bad backs in gardening don't do well.
But I think he has a deal that he brings up to till it, and I think Cindy and some of the kids plant in it every year. And I know that there were oodles and oodles and oodles of tomatoes and bell peppers left in the staff kitchen last year in the fall. So somebody's gardening in that garden.
Where is it?
And John Caldwell is a person to talk to, as is Cindy, because both of them know about that. It is back there by the dumpsters, in the back corner of the parking lot.
Do we still have a ministry to one of the schools, public schools?
We had a ministry to Spring Valley Elementary School over here.
That's what I remember.
And within the last year, State Farm adopted that school. And so, for example, if you noticed that we didn't have a backpack drive, it's because State Farm gave them all the backpacks they needed. And when our representatives went over to the school and said, what do you need from the church who's adopted you? They sort of said, we kind of are covered.
Good, then it works.
So, right.
It works.
Someone else is seeking and serving Christ at Spring Valley Elementary School. But there are lots and lots of ways to do this work, and we're sort of intending to empower you in it. Does everybody know that this coming Sunday from 3 to 5 in the parlor, the foyer group kickoff is happening? Somebody's going to ask me a question now.
Foyer group's not on there.
Huh?
Foyer group was.
Well, so there's a fine line between a fellowship group and a ministry group who's trying to do work in the community. But I am bringing it up for a similar reason. Does everyone know what a foyer group is? I didn't think so. There are groups who get together. We kick off in February, and they choose small groups of 4 to 8 people, depending on the group and the hosts. And they agree to have dinner together 4 times a year. And I think they rotate different homes of people who will host it. And you stay together with your foyer group throughout the year.
It's for 6 months.
Oh, 6 months, half a year, sorry. So you get together with them twice in the 6 months or 3 times?
4 times.
4 times in the 6 months. Thank you. You can tell I'm not in a foyer group. And then you switch and you get new foyer groups. And so having dinner regularly with a group of people from the church in their home, you get to know each other really well. You start to feel connected and in community and supported in your relationship with Christ and loved. You start to have people who go, I haven't seen Barbara in church for a couple of weeks. I better call her and check in, make sure she's all right. And it's really important when you're new to a church to find some things like that. Foyer groups are a really nice way to start getting to know people.
And you can even have them in a small apartment. I have an apartment, it's small, but I have a table that seats 8 people, and I have just a little conversation area in the living room, and I have enough chairs that we're just in a very small, intimate setting. So
Great.
it is possible, and you can get someone to co-host with you, and if you're a single person, can get someone to help you. And
one of the things that did come out of a foyer group, it just so happened it was at our house. We do talk about things, like, wouldn't it be fun if we had this at church or whatever, is the second half group, which is for the people of a certain age, which has become very active in the church. And that all started through the foyer dinner that we had at our house one time. So there are a lot of good ideas that come out, and you get to meet people that end up being some of your best friends. People that you might not ordinarily sit down and talk to at great length.
People that go to different services, so you never even see them.
That's right. Yeah. It's a great way. I think we have been in 21 different groups
Wow.
since we have been here.
Wow.
But there is a sign up coming on Sunday, and feel free to come, because even if you haven't signed up ahead of time, it's randomly done. They've got this wonderful computer system that just throws all the names in, and then you get a list of who's in your group. And most times it's probably 8 people in a group. Very, very manageable.
And the goal of it is to get together and have a meal. The goal of it is to not have like the cleanest home in the world and the most exquisite cultural experience for your palate or whatever. I mean, it's just about getting together.
And some
Don't
groups,
cook, you can host in a
even go out
restaurant.
after church. Their dinner might be at a restaurant.
Yeah.
Instead of in a home.
Thoughts, questions about service and groups and that sort of thing?
Is there like one core group that gets together and says, okay, this is our set day, we're going to do Habitat for Humanity, or we're going to do this, or is it just individual groups, or?
So it depends on the ministry. For example, we go to Austin Street 4 times a year on a particular. Every month. Gosh, I'm not good at this yet. We go to Austin Street every month, but we have 3 teams who go 4 times a year. This is what, see, I was not that. I knew there was a 4.
I'm on every single team, so I go every month.
When we had the gathering.
Hang on,
Wednesday
I'll
of
do
every
that
month,
too.
so that's next
The
Wednesday.
gathering should be on here.
And we also
In other words, if you join a team to go to Austin Street and you only join one of them instead of all of them, you would have a regular schedule on the what day of the month
3rd Wednesday of each month.
in the evening,
for November.
and then you'd go down and do your thing. And that's determined based on their connection and schedule. Judy Loveday Corbett works with the center and signs us up for that every year. But in terms of other ministry opportunities, the food pantry is on its own regular schedule. Some of it happens in the staff calendaring meeting. For example, there was a desire on the part of Open Door to participate in Pride Parade, which is a ministry in a big, big way. That gets slotted into this church calendar. The Open Door team get themselves signed up and have a spot entry in the parade, and they put together the booth. So it sometimes is a coordinated staff effort at the calendar. And often, if it's a ministry group, it's driven by the ministry leadership, connecting with Lana in the church, especially if they need to use the buildings to make sure we're available.
So, just saying, potentially, if someone wanted to look at potentially starting something or getting something going, would they come to y'all first, and then is there a process that you go through, or just out of curiosity?
I'm not sure that we have anything that's strict and formal, but if you're looking at starting a ministry, what I would suggest is having a team of 2 or more people who want to be a part of that ministry and want to serve as leadership for that ministry, and make an appointment to come and see Father Casey, or come and sit and talk with me if you want to just brainstorm first. Then, assuming that that fits into the scope of things that we can support, which almost all kinds of ministry does, we'll say, good, here's a way to gather interest about it. We might run an announcement in the bulletin for you. We might help you gather a team of like-minded folks based on who we know, and then we will work with you.
Okay, and then one more question, final question.
It's fine. You don't have to say final question.
The school has been, the Spring Valley has been adopted by Farmers Branches there?
State Farm.
Okay, State Farm.
Mm-hmm.
You work with schools that this served by this church, like is there a certain zip code or other schools that maybe need people to read to them, or this is what I was wondering about?
For school stuff, let me put you in touch with Martha Cordell, who has served as the liaison to Spring Valley Elementary for a long time. I do not know if there is a movement within church leadership or lay ministry right now to find another school or not. And what I would say is we would be happy to work with any school that's in the nearby vicinity who is in need of help, assuming that we have a critical mass of people who want to do ministry. Hang on, I got 3 hands.
I used to work with Spring Valley a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I have since moved to another part of the zip code, a little farther east, but it's still in the same zip code. There's a fairly brand new elementary school there that is in an even poorer neighborhood than Spring Valley is. And I don't know anything about whether they have any kind of support or not. I can't even tell you the name of it because it's some lady's 3-name,
There are many, many schools who are in need of support. I do know that a good number of Richardson schools were adopted by corporate sponsors like Spring Valley, but I don't know which ones they are. And if a team got together and founded, that's right, if a team got together and found a school that didn't have a sponsor and we had enough people who wanted to be in ministry there, you bet we'd want to hear about it. Barbara.
Well, I was just going to say I could drop in sometime and ask them.
Are you interested in leading a ministry to a school?
I can't currently lead it because of my physical condition. But
What we would need is somebody who wants to lead it.
if they need help, that's all.
Yeah. Thank you. Barbara.
St. Philip's, that was brought up in the Episcopal Peace Fellowship meetings that we've had as, like, there's been, I guess, relationship with St. Philip's, and obviously it's not gonna be picked up by a corporate sponsor because it's an Episcopal church, or an Episcopal school.
So, for those of you who don't know, St. Philip's is a school in South Dallas that was started by a number of Episcopal churches in the area. I think there is some history of relationship with them.
Yes.
Not only from this church, but from many churches in the diocese. And I'm hearing a lot of interest in school ministry. If we have a critical mass of people who want to jump in, let's talk. Like outside this meeting, but let's talk. Yeah.
We did once do some work in English as a second language for people. I remember that, but I don't remember when.
We did at one point. We had someone last year who wanted to revive that as a leader of that initiative. That person experienced some health concerns, and so we don't have a leader for an ESL ministry right now. And without a lay leader to do it, we're not staffed to do it right now. That doesn't mean we can't do it. It means we need a lay leader to come forward with a team of people who are willing. And we do have a handful of people who have expressed an interest if the right leader comes along. Yeah. Other thoughts, questions about seeking and serving Christ? One of the things that I will do after the way is completed is to follow up with each of you and find out how you're doing at finding the right ministry for you and also the right fellowship group, a community of friends here. We don't want you to go through the way and get to the end and think, well, now what? You know, where do I go and who are my people now that we're not meeting every week? So we want to help you find that. Like Mark. Yeah. I should say, if you are currently a wayfarer and you enjoy this, let's talk about the potential of becoming a companion in a future year, because we're always looking for the right people to come back and serve as companions to the next group of wayfarers. That's also a ministry. All right. If there are...
That should be on the list.
It should be on the list. I'll put that on the list. Companions. I'm just glad we have a list, however incomplete.
And let me say something else for Sunday school. You don't necessarily, for the, Cindy Hauser with that, with the Sunday school, children's ministry, volunteer, you don't necessarily, if you don't necessarily have to teach, you can also be a behind the scenes person.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, I was behind-the-scene person for the We Wonder. This year, I do teach, but, you know, you can just come in during the week and get the class ready, and Cindy would just really appreciate that. You don't necessarily have to give up.
That is true. That is definitely true.
The teachers sort of be
Yeah.
shadowed.
All right. Thank you.